What's going on, YouTube? This is Luke with Endless Entrepreneurs. Just coming to you with our fourth episode with here with 10K on the Bay of our 6 tips at kind of 6 at 6 Central Time. A little not really either of our time zones, but it fits. And so being the fourth episode, we're going to cover time management today, which is definitely a hot topic. I know I get asked about all the time, and Chris, I'm sure you do as well, and just how it applies to your business, your life, just everything you're doing as it relates to eBay and scale. But those of you new to my channel, I am a part-time eBay seller and a full-time corporate finance analyst. Document my journey on this channel. Love the reseller community. Chris, go ahead and give your introduction here.
What's up, guys? My name is Chris. I'm 10K on the Bay on YouTube and social media, and I'm just documenting my journey to 10,000 live items on eBay. I was doing it part-time, but now I'm going full-time, and I'm loving it. Loving the series with Luke as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, this has been a fun series. I think that each week that's gone by, I know Chris has kind of held it down for the last 2 weeks. I was on a 10-day trip, so I apologize for the break in the action, but appreciate him filling in and keeping the content flowing. But each week I've learned stuff from you. I think like we talk about what our topic is ahead of time, but it's like as it free flows and we interact with everyone watching, we just seem to learn more and more. So definitely appreciate that. But true to form, we're going to jump in. First half hour will be content. Second half hour will be Q&A about what we've talked about. And so hold those questions at the end and make sure you're bold about those questions because we learn a lot from you guys as well. So Chris, why don't you jump in with your first one? Go right ahead.
Cool. So my very first tip is to calendar and set alerts for recurring habits. And I've decided I would like to just, since you list some of your habits, I'd like to try to automate the things that are the most critical for me as far as reselling. So for example, I have an alert that's set up on Friday afternoon to start researching garage sales for Saturday morning. So I'm trying to I'm not going to rely on my own willpower. I want to create alerts that let me know, okay, it's time to do this. That way I don't forget. And I just think it's really critical to try to remove thinking from getting the things that you need to get done. And I have a goal of 350 listings up a week. And so I am setting alerts like, okay, time to list. Okay, time to go sourcing. And that's really, really been helpful for me, especially now that I'm full-time. And Luke can attest to this. I didn't even know what day it was yesterday. So it's important to really just set alerts because it all blends together when you're working for yourself.
Yeah, and Chris isn't lying about that. Literally, he says, are we still on for tomorrow? Because we're trying to get back on normal schedule. And he goes, oh, dang, I can't do Thursdays. I was like, Chris, tomorrow's Wednesday. It's like, oh, crap. So, yeah, he's absolutely right. So I got a couple questions for you on this, though. So alerts, you're using your phone, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. And are those alerts scheduled at the same time each day? Do they vary based on the week? Like, what have you found to work best for you in your situation?
They definitely vary by the day. So Monday through Friday, I have a very similar schedule, which is I have a few calls in the morning. I source until around 4, and then I ship. So my sourcing is the same every day. And the alerts it's not quite refined, but it is going to tell me you've been in the store for 20 minutes, time to go to the next store, just so I can make best use of my time. But it is actually not the same every day. Okay.
So you tailor ahead of time. Do you preload those alarms like for the full week, or do you do it the night before, or like how have you best managed that with the variety?
Right now I have it done haphazardly. To be honest, it's not perfect, but I'd like to have the whole week planned beforehand. But now it's more like the night before I'm setting it up for the next day.
That's cool though. I mean, that's a great idea. And honestly, I can say I don't actually do that very frequently, and I probably should way more than that. So I'm going to at least pick one task this week and test it out and see how I like it. I can definitely see the way my brain works, that would be very helpful. So that's an awesome tip. I'm going to kind of piggyback off that one a little bit, but not totally. And I'm going to talk, I mean, Chris is full-time, so for him, it's super vital that he stays on task, and these alerts are a great way to do that. For me, I'm part-time, so I have a certain amount of time around my day job, which is typically like I'm there at 8 to 5:36, depending on the day, sometimes a little later. So the early morning and the late are like my vital time to get anything done for my business. And something I've found, and it's really just from a couple different self-development books and just from watching other successful people, is using that law of kind of Pareto's law of really whatever the most vital skills are, or the vital tasks that are going to drive all the value to your business, right? They only reside in a couple of tasks. And finding those tasks and getting them done first thing in the morning has been just absolutely game changing for me. And I started doing that probably early this year when I really set my big business plan goals. And I just made sure I said, all right, what are the highest value activities I can do for my eBay business? And the first one off the top was listing. I just was like, if I'm not listing, my business isn't growing. The second one for me was getting my mind right for the day, because I'm having to shift from like one persona to the other, from eBay person in the morning to a job, during the day, back to family person, whatever else. Getting my mind right when I first woke up, so reading, journaling. So I kind of started ordering my day, and to me, I picked 3 things that were most important. And so it was listing, getting my mind right, and then working out. I've been wavering a little bit on the working out. I've been trying to fit in other areas, but ideally, and what I normally do is get those 3 things done at the beginning of your day. And so I guess just to come back to the point of the tip is, if you get your most valuable things done in the first part of the day, no matter how your day goes the rest of the day, you've already accomplished what drives your business the most. So if your day gets away from you, or if life comes up and you have to go do something, if those things are already done before the sun comes up, or even early morning, your day can't derail the growth of your business or your goals. So that's my tip, especially from a part-time eBayer. That's been huge for me. So
are those 3 things the same every day?
That I try to keep them the same every day. So I mean, I've been listing. I mean, the traveling has been kind of a little weird, but when I'm home and I'm in my routines, it's up, read, journal. Now I've been doing that morning video series, so it's a quick 5 minutes on video, and then as lists the rest of the way, ship if I need to. And get a quick 15-minute like HIIT workout in, just to kind of get the energy for the day, so that I can refocus and be ready to go.
So you have workout, journal, and
list list my items per day. So I've been doing 15 items per day. I was doing 12. So they're all ready to go. Drafts are set, and it's already done. So I can just go to work, load the pictures, and make them live. What
time is this? Pretty early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for a good part of the year, I was waking up at 4. Lately, I've been doing 4:30, like 4:45. It's just been better for my body, getting an extra half hour of sleep. And it's all about finding your happy medium, what works for you. But like 4:30, 4:45 has been really nice for me. I do my little video up for 5 minutes at 5. Right away, I read and journal. And usually I read before my video, and then I journal after my video. And then I just list for hour and a half straight, get 15 solid listings done, all set, drafts ready to go. Get a little 15-minute workout in, shower, and then get to work for actual day job. And that's worked really, really well for me. When I can stick to that, I'm the most productive. And then I get to work and my mind's just clear, because I got all the stuff that like stresses you out for the day. Like, I got to get that done. It's already done. And so now I'm thinking about other things, other strategy related things. And I can at least get my day job done effectively.
No, that's awesome. Those 3 things, I try to work out, and I don't do any listing in the morning. So I think I might get on that schedule, because I like that. Because if you at least have a certain amount of listings, you're probably going to sell ideally one of those things every day, and that's really going to keep you motivated. If you can sell one of the fresh items, then you're really killing it.
Yeah, and another reason why I adopted that too, Chris, was, and this is for a lot of part-time sellers too, the stores are only open a certain amount of time to source. In the early morning, they're not open. So there's no way I could source, right? So at that time of the day, there's only so many value add activities that I can do. And if the most valuable one I can do around when I can't source anyways, like that's optimal for me. So that's the other big perk for listing early and having it done.
Gotcha. I am going to roll into the second tip. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So my second tip is actually, I don't do CrossFit, but I'm taking this idea from CrossFit, which is they do a lot of AMRAP, which stands for as many reps as possible. And one of the reasons why they adopted this into their workouts is because when you're trying to complete as many reps as possible, you're completely 100% focused. No one is thinking about work or their baby or anything during and as many reps as possible, exercise of any topic. You're only doing that one task. And so I think it's great to try to get more out of each hour. We only have the same hours. So I'm trying to increase the intensity before I do something. And that's really, really helped me out for time management. So I've been aggressively listing or aggressively shipping and trying to, you know, if I have an hour to ship, I still try to ship as fast as possible. Otherwise, it'll take up the whole hour.
Right.
And I'm just trying to increase that intensity level. And it's been a little bit weird, but I think that speed is key. And I just don't, I'm a little bit too lackadaisical sometimes, and I want to get in on a little more of an intense mentality towards time.
I think that's an awesome tip. I mean, we've talked about a couple times just competing with yourself being a really, really good way to maximize the time you have. Have you found, especially in listing, that you're actually increasing your listing capacity too? Like, do you find that your skills are going up? I say skills loosely, but like, do you find that your efficiencies are increasing as you push yourself more and more?
Yes, but I do think that at a certain level of intensity, like you could never do 40 listings an hour, no matter how intense you are. So, you know, at a certain point, it's faster to hire a person to help you.
Right.
But
Agreed.
you know, as far as the process for myself, I think I'm definitely seeing an increase in output from a listing standpoint.
That makes a lot of sense. And it was a good point too. And you said, like, if you leave, and I find this happens to me nonstop. If I leave myself like an hour to ship and I'm not pushing myself, I'll use the whole hour. I'll come right down to the last minute. It doesn't matter if it's half the items or what I would normally would an hour. Just somehow, like, you're on your phone, oh, I'll check this. Oh, I got plenty of time to get this finished. And it's like you end up letting minutes slip away that you just didn't have to let slip away in the first place. So I think that's huge. And I'm super competitive. I assume that you are too, Chris. You're pretty competitive. So that always resonates well with me. Anytime I can compete, and especially with myself, I love that. That's a great tip. All right. I guess I will transition. And this is another thing that has worked really, really well for me. Is blocking specific tasks to specific times. And it's kind of piggybacking off what I said this for my morning routine, but I use it for everything. And I do it for a couple of reasons. One, if you do the same task for an incredibly long time, like I don't want to overgeneralize, but no matter how good you are, at some point there's a law of diminishing returns and you start to decrease, right? Like your focus goes. I don't know what the exact minutes. I've heard a wide range of like an hour to 90 minutes to, you know, some people do 120 minutes or only 30 minutes to get maximum output. But either way, I think everyone has their own threshold. But I think it's important that you find your threshold. So figure out what is the perfect time for you where you start to lose focus, and then schedule everything that you do within that block of time or less, so that you're getting the most out of your time. You're not letting minutes slip away, and you're not getting less productive. And so, like, even for social media, like that's been a big one for me of late, Chris. I'm not sure how you handle it, but I've been blocking out time in the day where I'll answer all the comments, because I love answering comments. Like I kind of take pride in that I don't really let a comment go by that I don't address or answer. But at the same time, if you kind of let them creep in here and there, and while I'm listing and while I'm shipping, like I'm just not as effective or efficient. So blocking out each of those tasks and saying that's the only thing I'm going to do this half hour or this hour, and it's non-negotiable. You know, that really goes a long way for me.
I definitely agree with you. I like the time blocking. And for social media, it's definitely key, because if you don't do that, 5 minutes can turn into 15 minutes real quick.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah, you get lost in your Instagram feeds and things like that very quickly. That's for sure.
Let's see here. We're rolling into our third. Okay, so my final tip, and this has been something that has really, really worked out for me. I have been sourcing with a female counterpart pretty regularly now, and it's been amazing. And the reason why I pick females, because typically they're sourcing women's items, I'm sourcing men's items, and we're both going in and out of every store. Last Friday, I went with Thrifty Boss Babe, and we went sourcing for 10 hours in a row. We started at 7 in the morning at garage sales. We did thrift stores. We did retail arbitrage. We did 10 hours straight of sourcing, and all in different stores. And I just feel like I leveled up so much. And having somebody there to compete with and work with, I learned so much. So if I could schedule a time in, like for my workouts, ideally, I think I would have a partner, not a trainer. Because we could both compete and work on the same type of thing. I would enjoy that more than a trainer. So for me, I like having that partner to do certain tasks, because reselling can definitely be lonely, out there hunting for treasures by yourself all day.
That's an amazing tip. I mean, first of all, I've never even thought about like utilizing that, especially from a sourcing perspective. But second, I mean, just touching on the loneliness of reselling, like I've been really interested when you decided to go full time, like been watching and picking your brain and stuff. And like I get my social fix at my 9 to 5, so I never worry about that. For me, I get my social fix, and then when I go sourcing on the weekend, it's like my isolation, like I love my alone time. But it's like it definitely, the paradigm shifts and flips on its head when you're full time, because you don't get that anymore. And I think that's just so genius, right? Like one of the funnest parts of the job is the hunt, right? Thrill of the hunt, and you get to share that with someone else. And I'm guessing you're picking someone, and this is assumption, you're picking someone who isn't sourcing the same things you are, so you're actually learning from them while they're sourcing. Is that a fair statement?
That's right.
That's incredible. That's so smart, so simple, so smart, but so simple. I'm excited. We have our meetup this weekend, so maybe I'll find some people who can leverage that way. But yeah, that's an awesome tip. No, how many times have you done that so far?
3. I've done 3 sourcing trips with different people, and we all source different things, and it's excellent to see how different it is.
That's awesome. Now, how does that affect your schedule? Like when one person's finished but the other one isn't, like how does that work? Do you find yourself waiting around, wasting minutes that way, or
I look through their cart?
What?
I look through their cart, and they look through my cart if they finish a little bit early, and we just go through it. And then also, what I have been doing is at the end of each store, we've been saying, okay, which one of these ones is the worst and which one is the best, and we're even sort of filtering through a second opinion, which is great, because sometimes you pick up stuff you're not supposed to pick up, and if you have that second person there to slap your hand, then you won't pick up something just because you like it, but it has poor solds.
Huh. That's so cool. That's really interesting, because I mean the only thing I have to compare to it is when I would source with Shannon. And I never had to worry about it because there was always twice as much female clothing. So I was always done before her, and she was like, okay, next store, because no matter what, there's endless stuff for her to look through. So I never really had to worry about that, but it's interesting. I get real antsy, and then when I go through a store, I'm like, I'm ready to power through it. So power through it and go. But I'm going to have to test that out. That's a great tip. That's an awesome tip.
I know that you sell suits, and that takes a long time for me to go through. So I can see it sort of evening out. Although the women's section is still 10 times as big.
It's enormously big. It's crazy. Especially here. I mean, I'm sure it's everywhere, but here in Charlotte, it's always like 2 to 3 times the size. Easily. All right. Well, great tip. I guess I'll triage here into my last one. And it kind of just follows suit with all my last couple. And, but it's more around distractions. And, we've talked about maximizing the time that you're in, being present, those things. And one of the biggest issues, and it piggybacks off all the things we've been saying, is for me, is turn off all of your social media notifications. It's not enough just to stay on your phone, because now I use my phone to take pictures. I've evolved. I've fought it for months, but I've evolved. I've changed, and it's faster for me. But because I'm taking pictures on my phone, if I have notifications dropping in over and over, it's so easy to distract me. Even offers, like I turn off my eBay notifications too, because otherwise I'm on whoever else's time, that's sending me the message or whatever is happening. And I have found a huge bump in my productivity during listing. I'll keep it on during sourcing just because I think it's like with all my best offers and stuff, I want to keep that rolling. But especially with listing and shipping, those are the 2 times a day. And when I'm reading in the morning, I keep it off completely. And I've noticed a huge jump. I've been doing that for probably 2 months now, and I've seen a huge jump in that. And I didn't really need to before because I didn't have as much stuff happening. But then as your business grows, like your eBay grows, or even your social media, things like that, it's like you start getting a ton of more interaction. And for me, when I see notifications, I get excited and my mind instantly shifts. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'm done. I'm distracted for a second. I can reel it back in. But once I see it, it's just like, it's bad. It's real bad. Do you do anything similar like that, Chris?
I don't have any notifications turned on, and what really helped me with that is realizing that it's gonna be bad. The fact that you don't have notifications on, you're going to miss something that causes a fire or makes somebody angry, or like there's going to be something urgent that somebody messages you that you don't get to because you have notifications turned off. But knowing that ahead of time means that you're just okay with, you're comfortable with taking care of the urgent but not necessarily important till afterwards. My phone number is available to all the important people in my life, so they can call me. I don't have my ringer disabled.
Right.
So if it's truly an emergency, they can call me. But small little things will slip through, and being okay with the fact that you're going to be putting out a fire later,
right,
is important, I think, because it's going to happen.
And that's the same. I mean, same thing for me. Like I keep my ringer on and I keep my text message stuff just because I honestly, like, my number is pretty private. I don't share it with people. So if someone texts me, usually it's important. So like I'm okay with that one coming through. But I need my notifications like my eBay, Instagram, YouTube, anything. There is nothing that within an hour of focused, dedicated time, there is nothing that's going to happen so great that it's going to devastate my business. Like, and me responding to an angry customer after an hour and 10 minutes versus 40 minutes or 20 minutes is going to have zero impact on whether I resolve that with that customer. And I've just grown to accept that. And it's a lot, like you said, once you've accepted it and you're okay with it, it's just so much easier to implement it and gain the benefits of it. That one of all the three, like I can't recommend that enough. Like, and even if you're hesitant, just try it. Do a half hour. Like do a half hour of focused time with it off, and you'll be like, oh my goodness. Like, and measure it against when you have it on, because I guarantee you, your productivity goes up. All right.
I think we're good. Are we gonna head into questions?
I think let's head into some Q&A here.
So Kat has Kat Bodine has a comment to put your phone in the airplane mode when you're photographing. I actually use a separate device. So I use an iPhone 6 that's Wi-Fi only to do photographing. So it can't even make a notification. So there's no, and that's what I'm using for my listers also. So there's no, I can see that though, because if you were to answer a text or on Instagram while you're photographing, it's going to totally mess up your flow.
Yeah, no, that's true. And a separate device is actually a really good idea. I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, you can just get anything that can connect to Wi-Fi. You can do your listing on pretty much any. So that's a good idea. All right, I'm having a hard time staying connected to the chat, Chris. So I might have to rely on you for some questions here.
Me too. It keeps disconnecting.
It keeps disconnecting. So I'm refreshing so I can try to keep up. I see Krillin asked, when do I have personal time? I think that's a good question to address. I think that first of all, everyone has to pick the threshold they're comfortable with. And for me, like, I heavily communicate with Shannon on what that threshold is, and I assure you, Shannon heavily communicates backwards when it's not desired. So the amount of time that we allocate, like on a personal level, is really based on the threshold and tolerance and what works for us. But generally, why I try to get all my tasks done in the morning is so that we can do stuff like play softball last night, or we can go on, we go on our date nights once a week on Friday. We'll do something with friends, once a week. So we try to have a couple things a week. I play in a basketball league, and I try to hit those in the evening so that I do all of my stuff in the morning. All my business stuff's done. I'll do these videos when I can schedule them around those other things, but I don't have to sacrifice all of the personal side of things just to get all the other stuff done. So hopefully that answers your question, Krillin.
I have the same take on personal. It's tough. I mean, it has to be scheduled. So in my opinion, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. So if your personal time with your significant other, my girlfriend's time is, it's not in pencil, it's in pen on the calendar. So I have to adhere to it, and I'm learning how to just turn it off. I know some people mentally, or they literally say out loud, I'm shutting down for the day, otherwise they can't. They have to like physically say something to turn off. And if personal time, if it's not scheduled, your eBay time will totally eat it up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
I've never seen this issue with the chat ever.
Yeah, it keeps saying unable to connect. So I see another question in here while I'm trying to refresh here. It said, Anna asked, do you guys have an LLC or an S Corp? I will let you answer first, and then I will answer mine.
I'm set up as an S corp. I have 25. I pay myself a salary of 30 grand a year, and I'm going to take the rest as a dividend at the end of the year. So that's how I'm set up. And to be honest, I'm using that $2,500 to spend on it. I'm not reliant on my eBay income, so it's there. But that's how I'm set up, because I think that's a reasonable salary for what I do. So you can set it up however you want to do it, but that's how I'm set up.
Yep. I have a LLC set up, but I haven't chosen yet to execute and use it for tax reasons yet. And I don't really have a great answer why yet, other than that, like, I've been working with my accountant, and he told me at the beginning of the year to make sure that I had it as of the first of the year. That when we get at the end that we have choices. So again, I think that question, if we're talking from a liability standpoint, I've never worried that much about selling clothing as a liability, but again, it's not a very expensive thing if you are worried at all, to have the peace of mind to have an LLC. So that was kind of my 2 cents. I am not a legal advisor or a CPA, so that's just my personal opinion. I definitely would recommend consulting someone though on that. Trying to refresh here, man. Oh, there we go. I'm getting like one comment at a time.
How do you plan to do a full-time job, eBay, wife, and maybe a baby? Most of us know that a wife and baby either means the full-time job or eBay has to go. What do you think, Luke?
That's a great question. And actually, I was planning to do a bigger video on that tomorrow. I've had a lot of viewers ask how to balance working full-time, family, and eBay. And it's not really an easy answer, other than you have to choose the things that don't matter as much as your business. So for me, right, Shannon is a top priority. My family comes before anything else, right? So if we're having a discussion and something's not working, then it needs to move, right? Because that comes first. Second becomes my business, which sounds weird, but I put my job as third. So family, business, job, which means that anything else. So if I ever got into a pinch, you talk about a baby or something like that, the first thing I have to go would probably be leisure. So it'd be my softball leagues, or it'd be my basketball leagues, or it would be, less nights out, on a weekend, or, those are the areas that unfortunately I think that I would have to sacrifice if you wanted to keep that going. And I think that comes back again to what are you trying to accomplish? So if you want to maintain both forever, then that's a different conversation than if you're putting in a lot of hard work for a couple of years to then transition to something else. And I think that's where the real big distinction comes for me is, am I putting in a lot of hard work for a couple of years, sacrificing some leisure stuff in order to have something better later? Or am I just trying to balance both because I like my job and I like the extra income? But I definitely think the morning is a big hack to that, and being able to wake up before everyone else that you kind of have responsibility towards and getting those things done. I mean, I learned to wake up at 4 a.m. and 4:30, and I've loved it ever since because it's my time to get stuff done. So that was a long-winded answer, but it was kind of a loaded question. Chris, what are your thoughts?
I'm planning on doing basically no leisure. I won't have any time for leisure, unfortunately. I'm going to have my leisure time is connected with my girlfriend. So when we get married, it's going to be the same. Like that time for me is the most important. And I also want to throw this in there, which I think is an interesting tip. Most people have the best creative capacity to do something or do deep work sometime between the late afternoon towards late morning to early afternoon time. Somewhere in there is when people should block some deep work time where they don't get distracted and they really work on something. And I think for me, I like to do a little bit of reflecting towards my significant other during that time, not just work. Since that's the peak of my mental capacity somehow, I actually am working this into it. So during that time, I really think about my relationships, what's important to me, and do some of that during my peak creative time instead of only doing that when I'm spent after work. So not the best at that, but I think that since relationships are the most important to me, I should spend some of my highest peak time on it.
I think that's dead on. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get the chat up on my phone here. If we're missing your questions, guys, I'm sorry. Our chat's just not cooperating. But But yeah, and just to tack onto that, I guess I also don't think that morning has to be the best for everyone, right? Everyone's work schedules are different. They're not necessarily a basic 9 to 5. I mean, if you're more of a night person, you can, after everyone goes to sleep, be up till 2 a.m. getting stuff done, then great. For me, Shannon and I we like to go to bed at the same time. Actually, she hates if I don't go to bed at the same time with her. And so I respect that. And I mean, I value that time, even if it's just a few minutes of chatting before I fall asleep. So for me, I craft my schedule the other way. I get up earlier. That's just the choice that we've made. So hopefully that makes sense. Oh, it looks like I'm having chat's working well on my phone. So if I'm looking down, guys, it's not actually, I'm going to set it up here. It's not because I'm ignoring you. I'm just trying to see the questions.
Shane's asking, what do we see ourselves doing in 5 years?
Go right ahead, Chris.
In 5 years, hopefully I'll have a kid by then. I'm hoping I can have enough money for some real estate. That's where I like to shift my focus to things that, real estate is a tried and true way of building wealth. So that's where I'd like to see myself in 5 years, hopefully with at least one property to work with and a baby. So
that's a good answer. I like that. Oh, hold on. It's lagging a little bit. So for me, I for sure will be married. That'll happen within the next year, actually. Well, less than that, about 6 months. Yeah, Shannon's yelling from below. And definitely will have a kid or probably 2 by the next 5 years. I'm old. She said 2 definitively. So 2 kids because I'm old and not getting any younger. And I don't know. I mean, as far as, I guess I'll talk about the real estate. For me, real estate's a huge passion. The house I'm in right now, there's a townhouse that we bought with the sole intention of renting it out. And, when we look to buy again in the spring, this will become our first rental. And we plan to add at least 1 rental property every single year. So that's going to become a big focus of mine, is building out a rental portfolio. So in 5 years, aggressively, I hope to have 10 or 15 that we've leveraged somehow throughout that. And that will just be evolving. And I'm sure just like Chris will be, I'll be tracking that journey because it's going to be a fun one. Hopefully my eBay business and reselling business has got to a significant level that can support the real estate and continue building wealth through that, because to me, they go hand in hand. They're a pair. They're not separate, right? One feeds the other and back and forth. And then it's hard for me to speak about my day job because I just don't know. As long as it's engaging and I'm still learning, then it'll be a good solution for me. And I've just always been adamant about, and even with my previous job, when I stopped learning, it was time to change. And that was what I did. I wasn't learning in my previous position after a year and a half, and I changed. And for me, that's always been a huge deal, is if I'm not gaining skills, then I'm ready to change. And so I think that's the focus in 5 years, is hopefully I'm a much more skilled person and knowledgeable in tons of areas. I just don't ever want to stop growing. So that was another long-winded answer, but it's also a pretty loaded question. What do we see?
Yeah, my last point on that is that I think that the physical products world moving online is going to be longer than 5 years. So I don't see the trend changing. Things are going to become more and more available online.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, just for everyone, I think there's an enormous opportunity for anyone who wants to grow a reselling business over the next decade, just with the way that retail is shifting and the abundance of products that will be available to people. And that's just, it's just a hypothesis. It's just a hunch. But I think that everyone sees the trends, that the amount of resellers and the amount of product keeps going up, and the demand doesn't seem to be going away. So pretty exciting time, definitely, to be a reseller. Let's see what else we have.
Other questions.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not refreshing or if it is refreshing. I can't tell on my phone.
I've never seen this issue with the chat before.
Yeah, I haven't either. We're really sorry, guys. I mean, we do live shows all the time. We never have these problems. So if you're typing in questions and we're missing them, we're really sorry. I'm going to ask Chris a question, though, just to keep things rolling, because I do have a question now that he's full time. When do you foresee your time, since we're on time management, being maxed out and having to legitimately hire someone? And it can be for any task. It doesn't have to be for eBay necessarily, but when do you, at the rate you're going, when do you think that your time is going to be maxed out to what you have for yourself?
I guess when I have more money than time will be when I switch to hiring people. Right now, since I can't, like, I can't, if I couldn't source 40 hours a week right now. I don't have enough capital to do it just continuously. But I think if I look at, because I live in the Bay Area and it's pretty plentiful and bountiful, I could probably spend $2,000 to $3,000 a day if I had it sourcing.
Right.
So I think at that point, at the point where I'm spending $2,000, or I have more than $2,000 or $3,000 to spend, at that point it makes sense for me to add. But right now, um, I haven't. I'm still able to list all my own items,
Right.
with the capital that I have. So
I
think that's
I think that's an awesome answer, because basically you're saying when capital is not a constraint, then my time will be valuable enough to hire someone, which I think is like the perfect answer. And I don't know, I had a comment on a video the other day, and it basically was saying that I wasn't factoring in my time invested for like the ROI on something. And I think it's important distinction that when capital isn't in the surplus, time is your best asset. So your time doesn't matter, the value of your time, because your time is the thing you have to use to gain capital. So it's like your time is free right now, and it's the one thing you don't have to pay for to generate funds. So that hourly rate, yes, you want to work towards an acceptable hourly rate, but understand that at the beginning, to snowball that and gain capital and leverage, you have to sacrifice a lot of your time. And so I just think that was a great answer, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize how much time they have. So, like, if I've heard the saying, whatever you're worth hourly, any task you're doing that you could pay somebody less than that is a waste of your time. And I don't necessarily, I believe that, but it's tough to like not wash dishes or not do laundry because it's beneath my hourly rate, because I don't have enough $100 hours during the day to make that worth my time. If it was possible for me to have 14 hours a day of $200 an hour time, then at that point it is. But I don't have any more activities that equal that much. So at that point, it is in my best interest to wash my own dishes and do my own laundry. Yes. But eventually, hopefully you get to the point where it's not.
Well, not adage, like, and just kind of speaking to that whole coin phrase, right, of delegate anything that's below your hourly rate. That's a true statement for scaling, but capital is the first entry point to that thesis, right? Like at some point, it's like chicken or the egg came first, right? Like you have to at some point have the capital to pay someone $10 an hour to do your listing, and to have the capital to do that, you have to list things, and that's below your hourly rate. So at some point, you had to put in the work that was technically quote unquote below your hourly rate, or maybe that just simply means that your time isn't worth more than that until you have the capital to pay someone. I don't know, but I agree with you. Hypothetically, just like as a whole, it's like until you can afford to pay someone, like that's the price you pay, and that's your time. Malin asks in the chat, do you sell on any other platforms? So I just sell on eBay. That's all I sell on right now. It's all I have the mental capacity to master. I do want to sell on cross platforms in the future, but for right now, that's all that I'm able to do. How about you, Chris?
I have a little more time now, so I'm definitely increasing my Amazon. I'm spending at least an hour a day doing retail arbitrage. So all those items I'm sending into FBA. It's a nice break from thrifting. Plus, there's a lot of retail chains where I'm thrifting, so I'm learning retail arbitrage to send that to Amazon, and then also I'm learning vintage wear. So I will be selling on Grailed, which is a platform for basically male streetwear. I like male streetwear, and I'm relatively passionate about it as far as like I like seeing items that have historical value. So it's actually even a hobby. I would consider selling on Grailed, a way for me to increase my knowledge of e-commerce, which should help me with eBay, and also as another tool of another way to increase skills.
I mean, I think it's great that you're cross-platforming and learning more things, because you're actually in essence scaling your time by doing that, right? Like you're being more efficient on your thrifting routes. You're being more efficient on your opportunity. You're being more diverse in your business. So I think it's an awesome choice for you. And someone just commented in the chat, Amazon seller said, there are people worth $50 million that still wash their own dishes. Time management is great, but no need to take to the extreme. And I'd have to agree. I mean, there are some, that was an extreme hypothesis we put out there, but it's something that people say occasionally. So that was just our take on it. Compact Zach said he sells on Grail, and it's nice for that kind of stuff. So I guess you are right, Chris.
And some people enjoy little routines, like at a certain point, it's not even worth your time to do anything. Nothing you do, as soon as you're making a couple $100,000 a year, every single task is not worth your time.
Right.
So
and then it becomes satisfaction, gratification, and just ritual routine trump that, right? Like money isn't the driver of everything all the time. So all right, I'm trying to see if there's any other questions, guys. We got about 10 minutes if you guys want to shoot in any more questions here. I have the chat, I think, working on my phone. It looks like it's coming through. Not on my computer, though.
I do want to make one more time management thought that I have. It's not really an answer, and see what Luke thinks about it. So I think that all of us, like if you look at someone's to-do list for a year, it's always like 40 things. And to get what you want, for me, has been about like reducing stuff. Like getting rid of stuff is aggressively saying no, like, nope, can't do that. I can't do this. And as an example, I started a Facebook group, and it's not possible for me to do it. So I've already figured out a way to find admins and other people to help, and I'm basically saying no to starting a new project and asking for help. So trying to get things off my plate has helped me with my eBay business. And it's hard because to do great things, you got to say no to good things.
Yes.
Which is always hard.
That's actually, I can't believe anyone said that at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, just the art of saying no in general. I'm really bad at it. I've gotten a lot better, especially since I started reading self-development and really focused in on like owning my time and my schedule that I do have. And I don't know, I think that I probably aggressively protect it more now than ever, only because I'm doing both. I work full-time and do my business. And so it's like, every time I say yes to something, like I just don't have a lot of other time to give up. So like when I say yes to a night doing something, like that's a lot of hours. I can't make up for it. Like I can't find another time in the week to make up for it. Like me saying yes to something is pretty much saying no to something in my business for an entire week. So it's like, it's a big deal. So that's a great tip, great point. Yeah, we're still live. Someone's asking in the chat. There's a thump that's annoying.
It's Thor.
No, he's not even here. It's probably me shaking my legs. I have restless legs occasionally. I apologize. Do you hear the thumping right now? Because I'm being perfectly still. I'm guessing that you don't. That's definitely my fault.
Where is Thor?
He is downstairs with Shannon.
Oh, he's downstairs.
Yeah. I could just have my mic turned up too much too.
That did not feel like eBay vintage clothing. Oh, Tammy's just making the comment that vintage clothing doesn't go for as much on eBay. I think it does. It just doesn't move as fast as a site dedicated to vintage clothing. I mean, if you can't find it on eBay, you can't find it. So people who are looking for something are definitely going to look on eBay. It's just that if you're hunting for only vintage, you may go to an only vintage shop.
Yeah, it's only when I bump the desk. Sorry, that's my fault, guys. I get excited talking about this stuff. I start shaking my legs and then I bump things, and I
can't hear it on my end.
You know what? Next time I'm just gonna use my standing desk, and I'll stand, and there won't be any issues. I like to stand anyways. I don't know why I'm not doing that.
Let's see if there's any more good stuff in the chat. Yeah, Compact Zach says the same thing. It does sell on eBay. It just takes a little bit longer. Agreed. I mean, you just have to find the right buyer, and also don't lower your prices if you have the only one. just wait. Like people, eventually somebody will make an offer. So
yeah, I mean, I'm such a long tail seller. I never even worry about things moving slow, but I just have a more extreme model. Yeah, I think, and the guys, I guess that's the other thing for time. This is another tip as far as like directly in eBay business. If you find you're running out of time because your business is growing, which will happen to you, right? As you get more items, your sell-through goes up, you need more times to ship, you need to list more items to keep up. There are some simple things you can do to slow that down and get time back. One of the first is just raise your prices. Like we're talking about sell-through right now. You raise your prices and slow your sell-through down, you gain time back in your day. You're shipping less items. You have to list less items to keep growing. That's one way you're maximizing your time because you're getting a higher profit for the time you put in. I think early you don't want to do that because you're trying to build capital, but like I'm approaching 2,000 items, and as we start to ramp up towards fourth quarter, I'm going to be raising my prices to make sure my sell-through doesn't go absurd, but my sales will still be going up in dollars. So that's just another good one, especially if you're a part-time seller. It might be a good approach for you. When you're full-time, it's a little more difficult because you're trying to keep cash flow coming through all the time. But yeah, that would be another tip, another way to increase your time if you wanted to.
What other time management things? I mean, Luke and I have talked about this in other episodes where we try to batch things together to save time. And I think both of us are humble enough to say that we both are still beginners. So that beginner mindset will, if you think you know it all, you're not going to try to save time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because, and I'll answer a couple questions I see in the chat. We'll answer in a second. I echo that beginner mentality. Like, I've had a couple people who mistake some of our content or my content for telling people what they should do, and I'm really just documenting what I do. Like, these are tips that have worked for me, and I come away with stuff from you guys as viewers all the time that evolve my business. Like, my business has probably grown 10 times as fast as it would have had I not started interacting with the YouTube community and other resellers and picking your guys' brains. So one of the bigger overarching tips is just to watch what other people are doing that works and adopt it. Kat just asked if we relist things every 30 days. I do not, and that is I switched to good till canceled, and just for the sake of saving a few extra minutes each week and each day. How about you, Chris?
I just switched all to a good till canceled, but with the caveat of adjusting my listings once per week. So originally I had the 30 days so that I would force me every 30 days to make some adjustments, change the pricing, tweak it, make sure that my listing didn't have any errors. But now I look at every single one of my listings once a week. And they're all good till canceled, or at least they're shifting that way.
Okay. Better Barbie said, do you raise your prices before you run a sale? What about you, Chris?
So I read an article saying that people don't respond to a sale that's 20% or less because they are already trained. Like the 20% off sale doesn't trigger anything. They've seen, because everyone's running some type of a sale. So before, I mark all of my items up 50%. And so I'm constantly running a 50% or higher sale the entire time. Mm-hmm. So,
and do you find,
and the good till cancels help with that also.
And that's been effective for you?
It's been awesome because I think 50% off sounds like a great deal, even if it was priced too high to begin with.
Yeah. Well, so I noticed I've always been like, I used to just run a 10% sale for a long time, and then 20% for a long time. And then when I went on vacation, I just popped up to 30 just because I'm like, well, let's get things going at slow times. And my sales have been going nuts doing 30 and 25. So I think I'm going to adjust my pricing, and I might adjust it higher. I guess to answer Better Barbie's question, I don't adjust it every time I run a sale. I just keep my prices at a point where I can continually run a % off that I'm comfortable with. So I'm actually, once June's over, and I'm confident that sales are still going, still cranking, I'm going to be increasing my prices and running like a 30 to 35, maybe 40% off sale all the time. So we'll see. I'll test it and report back on how it's working, especially on my LL Bean stuff. I'm going to be doing that for just raising the prices. All right. Anything else, Chris, before we wrap up here?
The last comment I want to address before we wrap up is Amazon Seller 99 is saying, if you focus on higher dollar items and list less numbers, you will gain more time. This, I think, there's a lot of caveats in this statement, but as far as focusing on higher dollar items, I think generally speaking, higher dollar items take longer to source. As an example, I'm learning how to sell suits, and it takes longer for me to find a $20 to $50 profit suit than a $5 to $10 profit shirt.
Yeah.
It also takes longer to list. So it depends, but I would say if you're doing apples to apples, like you have 1,000 versus 1,000 shirts versus 300 suits, maybe the same profit. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that statement? The higher dollar items gain you more time.
Ooh, I'm losing a little bit. Still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I was saying, how do you feel about higher dollar items?
Yeah. So I think the theory is correct. Like, I think it's a very valid statement. I would totally agree with it. And that's kind of how I've tried to model my business, because I'm part-time, is being in that upper end of the price and being really strict on what I source. And so I think if you're, like you said, comparing apples to apples, right? If instead of sourcing $20 shirts, I start sourcing $30 shirts only, and I expand the products I'm going after. And I think the whole caveat is, do you have that readily available to source, right? If you have it available to source, then yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great point. I don't think there's anything wrong with that point. It's just a matter of if it's feasible with your area, your niche, all those type of things. So, all right. Anything else, Chris?
No, I just think it's the comment of, once you get over 5,000 listings, you won't be able to review your listings every week. I agree with that. Right now, I'm still around 3,000, so I can, but
yeah,
eventually it will not be possible. I'll have to do it right the first time.
Yeah, or you'll hire that process out. But yeah.
All right.
Well, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks for bearing with us with the broken chat. That wasn't as expected, but we got through it. Hopefully we added some value and some good tips for everyone. If you have tips after the video that we haven't talked about, please leave in the comments. I love reading them afterwards. I love learning from you guys. I know Chris does as well, so we appreciate that. Definitely like and subscribe, and check out Chris's channel, which is linked below. I'm sure everyone in the chat already does, but if you don't, definitely check it out. Head over to his channel. He's got some awesome content. And we'll be back on Sunday, right, Chris? We're back to our normal form Sundays.
Back on Sunday, everyone. Make sure to like the video.
Yep. And we'll be on Chris's channel on Sunday. So have a great night, guys. Hope that your June crushes and you guys end on a strong note for the second quarter. Have a good night, guys.